What is up, everybody? Welcome to another video. Today I will be breaking down kind of my season predictions, but mainly just breaking down what I see with each team in each division. So this will be a six-part thing with this will be a six-part series where I just go through each division, the three in the East and the three in the West, and just look at every team a bit more in depth than I had typically planned on doing. It isn't fully in depth. Don't get me wrong. I don't go all out. That would take 30 episodes, and I want to get this done ideally by the start of the NBA season. So before I continue, please leave a like and subscribe. It would be absolutely amazing if you did. And let's get right into it. So starting off in the Atlantic Division, got my Celtics jersey on. And for this, I started off with the New York Knicks, and I have two questions about the Knicks, and then just where do I expect them to be. So let's start off. First question: who will be the guy in New York? I think the clear answer for me is R.J. Barrett. He has the highest potential, I believe, on this Knicks team. That is, of course, without having seen Obi Toppin or Emmanuel Quickley play. But I think for the future of this team, I think R.J. Barrett will have to be the guy for now. Last year he averaged 14.3 points, 5 rebounds, and 2.6 assists, which are pretty good numbers for a rookie first year. 14 points and 5 rebounds, pretty good. Those aren't horrible numbers. What I do want to look at with RJ though is he is a below average shooter. And I don't expect that to change going into this year too much. It might improve a little bit, like a percent or two, in both shooting from the field, where he shot 40.2% last year, compared to a league average of 46%, and he shot 32% from three, compared to a league average of 35.8%. So it's in the same field, I guess. They're pretty close. But if he wants to become the guy in New York, those need to get better, because scoring 14 points on 40% shooting is not as impressive as scoring 14 points on 50% shooting or 16 points on 50% shooting. He needs to get that percentage up. Another thing I want to look at is his assist. Those haven't the 2.6 assist is not great. I get he really didn't have anyone to pass to, and I'm hoping that changes, as this team is it's a bit better than what it was last year, I would say. But he averaged less assists than Julius Randle did. That, as a small forward, can't be happening. RJ needs to average more assists than Julius Randle. And the other reason I think RJ Barrett will become the guy is they just have nobody else. As of right now, there's nobody else that I see on this team that is as good, as high of a potential as RJ Barrett has. The other two that I would consider would be Mitchell Robinson and Obi Toppin, and I'll get into them a little bit more later. So that's the first question that the Knicks need answering, is who does Tom Thibodeau want to be the guy? And I think it should be R.J. Barrett, at least for this year. That might change it when they draft whoever Cade Cunningham with the first overall pick. But we'll get into that next year if that happens. So the second question that I believe the Knicks need to answer is, who do you want to be a part of the core? Um, we clearly know that the Knicks are rebuilding. Like, there's no way this team competes for a playoff spot. They are probably the worst team in the NBA. I would say they are the worst team in the NBA right now. That is my opinion. But but they need to go and it's okay to be the worst. Someone has to be the worst. You just need to focus on how to get to the best. And right now, that starts with who do the Knicks want as part of their core. As a coach, they selected Tom Thibodeau, which I think is a fine pick. Very, very good coach. At least he has shown flashes of being a good coach. He's coached good teams. He's also had some struggles as a coach. But the first thing I want to look at with the core is Kevin Knox. Kevin Knox had quite a bit of potential coming into New York. Hasn't lived up at all. However, Tom Thibodeau says, looking at the shots that he had taken last year, the ones that he took, which I would quantify as good shots, he made those. When Kevin Knox takes good shots, he's going to make them. He's put a lot of time into his shooting. I think he's gotten stronger, but he's got to continue to work. And if he does that, Kevin Knox will be fine. First of all, no one thought a couple years ago when Knox got drafted, calling him fine would be praise, but it is. But Tom Thibodeau is not someone to give praise without merit. Like, in order to get praise from Thibodeau, you got to deserve it. And Kevin Knox has apparently deserved that. So when looking at the future of the New York Knicks, I now expect Kevin Knox to be a part of that as more than likely a bench piece. But I do think he will be a part of that if what Tom Thibodeau says translate to actual games. Now looking at I just wanted to point that out because that's actually what sparked this question for me was, like, would they want Kevin Knox? Apparently they do. Next, getting into the more better pieces. RJ needs to stay. Like, he's going to be the guy this year, and he needs to stay here. So that's piece number 2. Next, Nerlens Noel. I think for now, Noel is a good addition for the Knicks. For the sole fact that he is only 26. It's fairly young, 4 more years until he starts regressing in Madden. But yeah, he can help mentor, I guess, because he is only 26 again. Mitchell Robinson, as Noel is one of the better shot blockers, I would say. At least he has shown the potential to be a good shot blocker, and can help Mitchell Robinson at least a little bit with his shot blocking ability and just overall post plays. That's where Noel's strength is. So I think as of now, Noel can stay. But I could see him getting traded maybe for some slightly younger or some like a later draft pick. I don't know for sure. I can see it working either way for the Knicks, and I think just signing him was actually good thing for the Knicks to do. Next, I want to focus on 2 of the Knicks rookies, not Obi Toppin just yet, Miles Powell and Emmanuel Quickley, both of which show great flashes, a great offensive potential. I mean, let's start off with Miles Powell. He might have scored, he might have averaged less points per game against his own conference than he did against out of conference powerhouses, you could say. I mean, I have 3 games against good basketball teams in Michigan State, Georgetown, and Oregon. Miles Powell scored 37 points against Michigan State. I think I said Michigan on accident earlier. I meant Michigan State. Powell scored 37 against Michigan State. He scored 34 at Georgetown, and he scored 32 against Oregon. So not the competition that he plays in his own conference, which I think was the Big East, if I'm not mistaken. But I know he played for Seton Hall. I think they're in the Big East. Fairly certain. But yeah, Powell off the bench can definitely provide the offense that the Knicks can use later on. I think he was a senior last year. He at least was a junior, but so he's a little bit on the older side, not as old as Obi, but yeah, still can provide quite a bit of offense off the bench, as can Emmanuel Quickly, who the Knicks acquired from the 76ers, I believe. Quickly is a very dangerous shooter. He is a great floor spacer, and he is probably the best shooter on this Knicks team. I think he can greatly benefit RJ if RJ can't develop the consistent 3-point jumper. Quickly will be there and can hopefully the Knicks can develop him into a player that can work with RJ, spacing out the floor for just like RJ maybe attacking a bit more, or Mitchell Robinson down low. I think Emmanuel Quickly and Miles Powell will be great additions in the future for this Knicks team, but right now they need to work on developing. The next player I want to focus is on Julius Randle, who is in a similar situation, I'd say, to Noel, as they are both, well, for the sole reason that they're both 26. And when it comes to looking at a core, age is a huge part of it. So again, they can keep Randle on. I think Randle will help them win games because he's a solid player. He doesn't suck, but he's not one of the best in the NBA. He doesn't deserve to be anywhere near the top 100. But yeah, so they can keep him on to help mentor, I guess you could say, Mitch Robinson, Obi Toppin. But I could also see them trading him for to a contender for a first-round pick or 2 second, whatever they want to do. I can trading for whatever future piece they can get. I can see that happening, and I think that'll help. That'll make them lose a lot more games. But it also could help them in the sense that someone like Obi Toppin actually will now play their position, that their ideal position, which I'll get to in a second. But yeah, either way, I think it's fine for the Knicks to have him. They just need to make up their mind on him fairly soon. And now, the last two players I want to focus on, who I think will be a part of this Knicks core, is Mitchell Robinson and Obi Toppin. Let's focus on Mitchell Robinson first. Robinson shows great defensive potential. He had 2+ blocks per game the last 2 years. Did drop down to 2 this year. I think he had 2.4 last year. His rebounds could see some improvement. He had 6.4 his rookie year, 7 last year. So it's going up. I want to see it up a bit more. I think Robinson, along with the points, which is my next bullet point on my list, is points need to continue to rise. Both of those can rise into double numbers from Robinson, even if it is just 10 and 10 or 12 and 10, 12 and 11, whatever it is. Double numbers is something I expect from Mitchell Robinson in the near future, whether it be this year or next year. But it again also needs to happen soon. I just said again also that my brain's working well today. But yeah, the rebounds need to go up. That's something I think he needs to focus on, is rebounding. And then the points don't necessarily need to go up, but the Knicks need overall point production in general. And right now, I think Mitch Robinson should average around 10 a game, which he is. He's at 9.7, but maybe up to maybe at least get into the double digits. And I probably should have said around 12 per game, but I didn't. So he should get to about 12 points per game, I think, if not 11. And finally, the last player I want to focus on, Obi Toppin. I think Obi Toppin will be a great player. He won the Wooten Award last year, best player in college basketball. Something I'm not looking forward to with Toppin on the Knicks is Tom Thibodeau, as he has shown a history of not favoring rookies when it comes to allocating playing time. But if Toppin proves that he is the best chance of winning, Thibodeau will play him. Another problem I have with topping on the fit on the Knicks is the fit, and not the drip fit, the playing fit. Um, Toppin is a power forward, um, mainly due to his don't want to say inability, but his lack of consistency when guarding other small, like guarding the small forward. Um, his quickness just isn't quite there yet, but he can play the small forward. Like a possible lineup could be Alfred Payton, R.J. Toppin, Randall, and Robinson, and that's a fairly solid lineup. But ideally, Obi Toppin goes in and plays the four, which would be a perk of trading Julius Randle away. And the last problem I have with Toppin is he is a bit on the older side. Yeah, I think he's 22, 23, something like that. As a sophomore, it's a bit older, especially what we've come accustomed to. But he does show a lot of potential. Like, if he is anywhere near what he was in college, it'll be just fine for the Knicks. But let's get into what should we expect from the Knicks this year. They will not be good. They will suck. I think one, because they do not have a star player. RJ is their closest thing. But they do have players that can develop into that. Obi Toppin can develop into that. Mitchell Robinson can develop into that. RJ Barrett definitely can. Miles Powell and Emmanuel Quigley could develop into that. I don't know for sure. But right now they do not have the star player. The one thing they cannot do is misuse players. Specifically, the thing that came to mind was try and force RJ to be a 3-point specialist. He's not what he can do. That's not his specialty. Thibodeau needs to understand what these players do best, and use them in that way. But what would it take for the Knicks to compete? RJ Barrett needs to have an MVP year. Mitchell Robinson needs to be in the conversation for DPOY. Obi Toppin Rookie of the Year. Julius Randle becomes Shaq. And Alfred Payton scores at least 1 point a game. Safe to say 2 of those aren't happening. Sorry, Alfred. I love making fun of the Knicks. But yeah, it'll take a miracle for the Knicks to compete. But yeah, they gonna suck. So sorry, Knicks fans. Next, the Toronto Raptors. My 2 questions here are: can Siakam lead this weekend Raptors team? And will Lowry finally play his age? Starting off with the first, can Siakam lead this weekend Raptors team? I'm putting weekend in quotes because this team's still really good. They still have 2 All-Stars in Lowry and Siakam. They still have Fred VanVleet. They still have OG Anunoby. They got Aaron Baines. But they don't have the bench depth that's normally been there, specifically with Marc Gasol and Serge Ibaka. And this team is definitely not as good as, I would say, 2 years ago's team for sure, with Kawhi Leonard, the championship team. Nowhere near that good, I would say. But I don't think it's not as good as last year's team either. So it's a little bit of a weaker team, and Siakam needs to be the man. He needs to be the guy. He needs to lead this Raptors team. Yes, he can get help from Lowry, but I will touch on that in a little bit. He needs help a little bit, but he also needs to take over. He needs to start averaging 25 plus points per game. I know maybe that's not exactly what he's out there to do, but he needs to be this team's star. And something that I think gets underutilized a little bit is his 3-point shooting ability. While it's nothing spectacular, it is right about average. It's, in fact, higher than RJ Barrett's. I think it's Siakam is at 35%, and it's been constantly improving ever since he's joined the league. So Nick Nurse is a smart man, and I think we start to see Siakam take more threes than he has in the past, which he already has been. He's taken a lot more threes, but even more coming this year. So I'm hoping Siakam lead the team, mainly because he's played in New Mexico State, and I'm from New Mexico. So yeah, I'm always cheering for Siakam until they play the Celtics. But yeah, I really hope he can lead this Raptors team and solidify himself as a star in the NBA. My next question is, will Lowry finally play his age? And what I mean by that is he is 34 years old. He's older. He's nothing. He's not. At least he's not in his 40s. Um, but yeah, he's a bit older. But he's been playing at such a great level. If we go and look at his stats, ever since he's been a Raptor, he's averaged over 11 points per game, almost always constantly improving. It took a dip when Kawhi came. Took a slight step back up last year. I think it was at 19. So, so he's been a consistent scorer since joining Toronto. He's had at least 6.4 assists per game since joining the Toronto Raptors, and he has had either 4.7 or 4.8 rebounds per game in 6 out of his 8 years in Toronto. And those 2 other years, he had 5.4 and 5.6 assists. Rebounds, sorry. So, all around point guard. But will he keep it up for this year? If he does, the Raptors are a very good team. If he doesn't, they need someone like Van Vliet to step up. Or Anunoby to step up in the offense. So, Kyle Lowry will be a huge factor in whether the Raptors can compete again this year. Now, they will be a greatly coached team, as Nick Nurse is one of the best in the NBA, but a lot of it will fall onto Lowry, and if not, Malachi Flynn will need to learn quickly on how to be a starting point guard. Though I don't think it'll happen this year. Lowry will be, I think, good, but he needs to maintain an all-star caliber level if the Raptors want to compete this year, which I'm guessing they do. So, what to expect from the Raptors? I expect a very solid season. Though this isn't the Raptors team we have seen in the last 2 years, has gotten worse. It'll still be a good season. I think one of the better teams, even in the East in general. Like, they may be towards the bottom, like about average in the Atlantic. They're one of the better teams in the in the Eastern Conference. Holy cow, I'm tired, or something. I'm just stupid. But in order for them to truly compete for a championship, they need an MVP season from Pascal Siakam, which could happen. They need Lowry to be an all-star starter. They need him to play that the entire year. They need Van Vliet to play at an all-star caliber level. They need Anunoby to not only step up in the offense, but continue his defensive dominance and maybe contend for a Defensive Player of the Year. And maybe Malachi Flynn competes for Rookie of the Year. That would be an ideal season for the Raptors in terms of awards. But yeah, I think that's what the Raptors would need to in order to compete. Next, the 76ers. 2 questions, both regarding Ben Simmons for the most part. The first one is, who will Ben Simmons be? And the second is, will it work out? Those are the wording I have for both the questions. So, who will Ben Simmons be? Well, let's start off with, what do we know about Ben Simmons? 1, great defender. I think he was on an all-defense first team last year, if I'm not mistaken. 2, he's a great playmaker, one of the best in the NBA. 3, he cannot, for the love of God, shoot a basketball. What we don't know, what position he'll play. 2, sorry, I have a lot of, can he learn to shoot? I won't look at it, what we know, because we already know that. But what we don't know, what position he'll play. It really doesn't matter. If he's playing the 1, they need a stretch 4. If he's playing the 4, they need a good shooting 1. It's as simple as that. But when looking at the so let's say Ben Simmons plays the one. A possible lineup would then be Simmons, Danny Green slash Seth Curry, sorry, Matisse Thybulle, however you say it, um, Tobias Harris, and Joel Embiid. I think that would work pretty well, mainly because of, well, one, Danny Green and Seth Curry have shown themselves to be elite three-point shooters, and that'll greatly help a lot, as I'll get into in a second. But yeah, Tobias Harris, he can be number 4. He can be a stretch 4. He doesn't have the best shooting percentages. He had 36.7, but that's above league average. And for I think for power forward is towards the top. So he can be that stretch 4, though that's not, I don't think, his playing style. What if Ben Simmons plays the 4? They need a good shooting 1. Well, not necessarily. I think they would overall keep the same lineup. I think there'd be literally no difference in the starting 5. I don't think, but I don't see the point in. It really does. It doesn't matter. No matter what's going to happen, Ben Simmons will be their main facilitator. I mean, if he plays the 4, whoever they bring in to start at the 1 will facilitate a bit more. But I think they're set up fine with that anyway. Specifically with Seth Curry. While he isn't a predominant ball handler, he's very capable of being a ball handler. He can handle the ball well enough to take some of the ball handling load and playmaking off of Simmons, which I don't know the purpose of that because that's one of his. I don't know. This was a debate I heard, I don't know how long ago, but I really think it like as I said, it doesn't matter. It don't matter. The lineup stays the same. You would have, I would say, Seth Curry starting, Matisse, Tobias, Ben, and Joel, and otherwise it would be Ben, Seth, Matisse, Tobias, Joel. Now, if they had a good backup point guard, then like if, let's say, shoot, who could I use? If they had Isaiah Thomas, mainly for the fact that he is short. If they had Isaiah Thomas, or just someone who is clearly a point guard, cannot really play the shooting guard role. So basically, if Ben Simmons was shorter, then things would change because that player would probably not be starting, as they would opt for more of a shooting guard if Ben Simmons was playing the 1. If Ben Simmons was playing 4, that guy could slide in. But yeah, it really doesn't matter. I just wasted a couple minutes of your time. I apologize. Next, the other thing we don't know is, can he learn to shoot? Hopefully. I don't think he will get to the 3 yet. I hope he will eventually. But I think he can spread it out to the mid-range area and work on it. But, yeah, really the answer is no. He can't. He won't learn to shoot a 3 yet. So the next big question, will it work out? I think so. I think specifically because of Seth Curry and Danny Green for the three-point shooting, stretching the floor. We saw how good the 76ers were with J.J. Redick. Now, Seth Curry and Danny Green aren't J.J. Redick, because J.J. Redick is the GOAT. They are still great three-point shooting. As Seth Curry's one of the best last year and the year before. Danny Green had a down year last year, but the year before that on the Raptors shot 40%. So I think with these two, I think the 76ers are a very good team. Well, like a borderline great team. And I think the loss of Al Horford doesn't really hurt too much. Though they don't really have a stretch big. Like if you go and look at their backup centers, it's Dwight Howard and Tony Bradley. Both definitely known for hitting threes. So if let's say it doesn't work, let's say Seth Curry and Danny Green aren't enough to spread the floor for Embiid and Simmons. Well, who needs to go? I think Embiid is the better player. He's the better offense player. Surprisingly, as a center, the more well-rounded player on offense, as in he can make threes. And I think Ben Simmons is the one to go. Embiid does need to improve his defense. So really, if you combine Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid, you get like the perfect player. Like you get Jokic, but like better. But anyway, I think if this doesn't work, Simmons goes bye-bye. But I think they need to realize this pretty quickly that it's not going to work. And then maybe, just maybe, they can, I don't know, call up Houston, offer Ben Simmons for James Harden. I don't know. That's if this doesn't work out, which I think it'll work out. I think the 76ers will get 45 plus wins this year, at least around there. So what would it take for the 76ers to compete? I think these are pretty achievable things. MVP Joel Embiid, at least MVP conversation Joel Embiid, which he always has been. He's been in the conversation for MVP, like preseason. They need DPOY Ben Simmons, which I think is possible. He was one of the, according to all defense teams, top 5 defenders last year. And then they need 6th man of the year from either Seth Curry or Danny Green, at least level from whoever ends up coming off the bench. I think ESPN has it as Seth Curry now, though I do think Curry is better than Green. It might just work as Curry's a better ball handler. And I don't know. But whoever's the 6th man needs to compete for 6th man of the year. Then Tobias Harris needs improvement. I would like 22 points from him, 8 rebounds and 4 assists. So just a slight step up, but it needs to happen. He needs to be a good third piece if the Sixers want to compete. And then finally, they need Celtics Doc Rivers, not Clippers Doc Rivers, Celtics Doc Rivers if they want to compete. Or maybe like 2 years ago, Clippers Doc Rivers, not last year's Doc Rivers. That's the main thing they don't need. But they need to be fighters. So we are 60% of the way through, and we are left with, I believe, the 2 best teams in the Atlantic, 2 of the best teams in the NBA, in the Brooklyn Nets and Boston Celtics. So I'm going to save the best for last, and we're going to go with the Brooklyn Nets. I think there are 2 very clear questions. Why did I readjust? When it comes to this, one, will Kyrie and Katie work out? Yes, they will go in the gym. That's the easy answer. Kidding. Will it all work for the Nets? And then number 2, which I think goes hand in hand with number 1, is Steve Nash going to be a good coach? Let's start off with, will Kyrie and Katie work out? I personally see no reason why it shouldn't. Well, I can see one reason why it won't. But if we go and look at their history, both have played with top 5 players before. For Kyrie, it was LeBron. Katie, it was Steph. And both times, it has resulted in championship rings. I mean, it took Kyrie and LeBron longer, and it took Katie 1 year. But still, Kyrie with LeBron, they won a ring. Katie with Steph won a ring. Like, these 2, I think, know how to play with top 5 players. The biggest concern I honestly see with this is their injury history. Like, the reason they weren't competitors last year was injury reasons. Durant had his Achilles problem, I think is what it was, Achilles. And Kyrie, his shoulder, I think is what it was, if I'm not mistaken. But both do have egos and need to work it out. They need to be able to work together and with everybody else on the team. But I think that's where Steve Nash comes in. I mean, if we go and look at this quote from The Score that I found, Nash said, "I always approach the game like if everyone's a part of the game. We're a much better team. I've always wanted the team to feel well as a whole and to be at its elevated best." So basically, he just said the team is better when you work as a team. Shocker. Yes, teams are run through leaders, Kyrie and KD, but the work can't get done without the people like doing the work. Okay, that's not the perfect metaphor. Started off well, but the leaders need support behind them. That's why did I think of that? They need support behind them, and I think the Nets definitely have it. As I'll get into in a second. But let's looking at Steve Nash. Will he be a good coach, or at least a good fit for the Nets? I mean, first of all, my initial response is yes. I mean, he was a great player, and the way he played leads me to believe he'll be a great coach. He also has Mark D'Antoni on his staff, who is seen as one of the better coaches in the NBA. So that definitely helps. But if we go and look at his connections with these two star players, Nash worked with Durant in Golden State, not officially as a staff member on the Golden State Warriors, but he worked with Durant. So I think that's one of the reasons he was brought in. But that is one reason that he can greatly benefit this Nets team. I think he will work very well and can greatly benefit Kyrie. I'm going to put this in as simple of terms as I can put it. Kyrie, great point guard. Steve Nash, great point guard. Nash will help Kyrie a lot, I believe. So what should you expect from this Nets team? And I think it's great. You should expect a very good team, like a great team. I think Durant and Kyrie, specifically Kevin Durant, can have an MVP caliber season. I think you can expect that. Maybe, and then something else I think you can expect. Spencer Dinwiddie competes for Sixth Man of the Year as he's sitting behind Kyrie. Some things that need to happen. Oh, one more thing that I think two more things you can expect. Joe Harris, 3-point contest champion, can definitely happen. He has a lot of competition with both Currys, Duncan Robinson, Davis Bertans, but he can definitely compete and win the 3-point contest. And the next thing to expect is that they're the first or second in the Atlantic, and anywhere from first to fourth in the Eastern Conference. But what needs to get better, I think, is Jarrett Allen. He has some support that needs to happen behind him. As what I want to see from him is more blocks and more rebounds. That's basically it. Focus more on the defense. As I don't care about the points because the points will come. You have two of the best scorers in the NBA. Unlike Mitchell Robinson in New York, Jarrett Allen doesn't need to score in order for the Nets to win. He needs to play good defense and get rebounds. So that's what needs to happen there. And finally, in this already extremely long video, it's only 38 minutes. That's way shorter than I thought. The Boston Celtics. So, my two questions. Will the Celtics miss Hayward and Kemba? And then number 2, can Tatum and Brown take the next step? Again, also kind of go hand in hand a little bit. So let's start with the first one. Will the Celtics miss Hayward and Kemba? Yes and no. They will miss Kemba for the regular season, as his knee injury, not like he left. I realized that phrasing could have been not perfectly worded. But I do think they will miss Kemba during the regular season, but I think they will miss Hayward less. So yes, they will miss Kemba. No, we will not really miss Hayward. Without Kemba, our starting point guard will be Jeff Teague, more than likely. Unless we start like Marcus Smart and then have like maybe Nesmith come in or Robert Williams or Taco starting maybe. Tristan Thompson. Any one of those could work. But the more realistic one I see is that Jeff Teague becomes the starting point guard. And I think that it works out fine. Like the type of player that Jeff Teague is, a playmaker, and is willing to give it out on the defensive end, as we saw with Atlanta Hawks, Jeff Teague. I think it'll work out fine. They will be a good team, but definitely not as good as it would be without Kemba. Next, here's why we will not miss Hayward. We have great wings. Our best player is a wing. Our second or third best player is a wing. I think our second best player, hopefully takes a step this year, is a wing. We won't miss Hayward too much. I mean, it hurts our bench depth a bit as now Marcus Smart is starting, but also Marcus Smart I think will compete for Defensive Player of the Year as he's no longer coming off the bench and instead is actually starting. So yes, we will miss Kemba for the regular season. No, I don't think we will really miss Hayward. I mean, it was nice to have him on, maybe like on a more like a contract that better fitted the team, more benefited the team. But yeah, I hope he does well in Charlotte. I really like him. Like he got the hairstyle, but I had it for a second. The next question. Can Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown take the next step? For Jayson Tatum, that next step is an MVP level. He has great offensive potential. I mean, insane offensive potential. Could compete for the scoring. Maybe not. Can definitely be one of the best scorers in the league this year. And he's extremely young. He's no longer 19, which sucks. I saw a funny post though. Like saying, Matt, like, isn't it amazing how Tatum's like doing this at 19? He is older than 19, I know, but yeah, great offensively skill-based player, and his defense is great, especially guarding outside of the post. Once you get him, like if we play a team with like two post players, struggle a bit more. Maybe then we move Marcus Smart to the bench or Teague to the bench, and then bring in like Thompson and Tice. But anyway, I think Tatum needs to play at needs to take the step without Kemba taking shots away. The clear number one option, no one taking his shots away, needs to prove that he can play at an MVP level. I'm not asking him to win the MVP, but to be at the same level as those in the MVP conversation. Next, for Jaylen Brown, he needs to play at an all-star level or better. He played at an all-star caliber last year, but what he needs to go and do is solidify himself as an all-star. Like, not be on the fringe, like, is he in, is he out? He needs to go and play like, yes, he is an all-star, which is tough. The league is so loaded. Like, I did a top 100. I tried recording it. The files got corrupted, which I got maxed. That was 58 minutes of recording. But yeah, I think Jaylen Brown, it'll be tough, but he needs to solidify himself as an all-star. No longer on the fringe of being an all-star. But yeah, those two I think need to take the next step if the Celtics want to achieve what I have expected for them, and that is to be successful. For the Nets, I wrote what to expect for them is greatness. From the Celtics, you need to expect success. I mean, this team has been so close the last couple of years. Last year should have been our finals appearance, but Jimmy Butler's so dang good. Like, not just like he's just the mentality that he put in his team, that he put into Bam, to Tyler. It's amazing. I was watching them on like the Slam interview. That was funny. But yeah, this team I expect success. I also would like to see Tatum compete, as I mentioned, at an MVP level. I would like to see Brown compete at an All-Star level. And again, I would also like to see Smart compete at a Defensive Player of the Year level. But the thing I want to see the most is the mentality that we had in 2016 with MVP caliber Isaiah Thomas. That's the mentality that needs to be instilled in this team, that Brad Stevens needs to reinstill in order for us to compete. So that was my Atlantic Division breakdown. I know I had a video like talking about the Atlantic Division. Just scrap everything I said in that for the most part. It's pointless. But hopefully this works better. I like it better. But yeah, expect the Central coming out very soon. Please leave a like and subscribe, and I will see you all later. Adios.